Well, greetings and good day, blade lovers, and in particular, Karambit lovers, or even Karambit likers. Karambits, by and large, seem to have come and gone in terms of the fad. I think when you think of knife fads, you think of the 80s and the Cold Steel Tonto, you think of the Bally song and how hot those were, and they showed up in movies. And the same thing sort of happened with the Karambit, although maybe didn't hit the movies quite as hard as like the Bally song, which was a flashy knife to move around. However, with the Karambit, we seem to have a era of ring spinners. I have a background in Filipino martial arts, and I am told that the Karambit is really, by and large, not a Filipino weapon. It's more of an Indonesian weapon. It had been made popular by guys like Steve Tirani, and Steve had taught an entire course and courses on it and developed various knives, fixed blade mainly. And he did devise one or two folding Karambits. But let's stop the chatter and take a look at the knife. This is newly out. It is a button lock. It is by Civivi from the Wee Knife Company. It was preceded by the Incisor, and this is the Incisor, as in a tooth, a biting tooth. It was preceded by a Wee knife that was a upscale one with a titanium handle and an S35 VN blade. This is an aluminum handle and a Nitro V blade, I believe. I'm going to check on that for you because it's not on the knife. So yes, it is Nitro V. Had to stop the recording for a moment and just double check on that because I'm looking carefully. And this is completely, except for the C for Civivi, completely sterile, as they like to say in military units, unlabeled. So if it's left behind, they may or may not know who left it behind. Beautiful hawksbill, if you want to call it that, blade. In the Indonesian style, meaning if I hold the handle horizontal, the blade points 90 degrees. The point is 90 degrees. There's a lot going on with this knife, and before you diss the aluminum handle, realize that most of the Microtech knives, up until recently, all of the autos had aluminum handles. I believe the designation is TC4, and then there is the hardness level and so forth. I don't know a whole lot about aluminum, or, no, the TC4 I think would be the titanium, pardon me. Anyway, I will not speak in areas in which I'm not familiar, so I don't sound like an expert. Nice deep carry clip. I saw a review on this, and mine was already on the way from White Mountain, $120, less 10% for my old sword discount, and you knock about $19 off of that. So, no, about $12 off of that. So it brings you down to about $108 or so. I highly recommend the knife. I'm going to just jump out ahead of any conclusions here and say, whether you're looking for a Karambit or you're looking for just a new knife that is different and cool, they did a tremendous job on this. A lot of people, not a lot, but it's not a popular knife. And there's a lot of folks that don't particularly like this knife. Now, I agree with guys like Tactical Tavern who did a review on this. In fact, Tomas did a fantastic review on this with all the animated spinning and knife handling that he likes to do. Very energetic guy, and I love his channel. So I highly recommend Tactical Tavern if you haven't been out there yet. I'm sure you have. Smooth ring. Won't bite your finger. Again, Nitro V blade. You can use this knife in a point forward, edge down. You don't have to hold it with the ring. And you can also choke up. There's no real choil per se, but there's a big platform here on the flipper tab, which becomes a guard. Some people had mentioned before I got this that they felt it was a little cramped. Well, it is if you hold it this way, but you can still hold it this way. Or you can put your pinky through the ring, or certainly in traditional Karambit style. Let me back out a little bit. I'm going to be showing you a number of other Karambits in this review as well for comparison, because I've got quite a few. I was kind of on a Karambit tear for a while, not so much lately. I probably wouldn't have gotten this one if it wasn't so darn good. So this one happens to be in the gray finish. They come in 3 other finishes, one of which at least is wild, with a red handle and streaks and stuff on the blade going on for a little more money. Not much, but you can get this in a blue and a black. I believe you can get it with a black blade, etc., etc. The button lock action is beautiful. The detent is just about right. It has the wave opening feature, borrowing that term from Emerson, all credit due. And you can see it sort of shifts to one side, so you can detach it if either your jurisdiction doesn't allow for it, or you simply don't want it there, and maybe it's an extra piece of metal that you don't want. And then you'd be able to open it either with the flipper very easily. It's a short open. Doesn't need to swing very far because it's a tall blade because of that point, and it's just covering that point. And don't worry, you can't really cut yourself, but you can actually see through almost underneath that edge. I don't think anything is going to get caught. I really don't foresee any problems. The clip is completely switchable to the other side. It's inletted. And here we have flat-headed screws. Over here, the placeholder screw is not flat, but that's just a placeholder screw. You remove that. You use these 2 screws. You switch this one over to this side, and you're all set. It's about as deep carry as you're going to get without interfering with the ring. And you would be pulling it out of the pocket, catching on the front of the pants pocket, and then your hand assumes the position. Very nicely set up. If you would prefer, and you remove this little pants opener, wave opener, you can simply use the opening hole. And I've tried it. It's a little tricky because this is going to run into your hand, but you can flick it open with a middle finger flick. However, be aware that this large flipper tab, by the way, it's nicely, sharply jimped. When you use that middle finger flick, you've just got to make sure that your hand is out of the way. And I just got a little bite from that point, so be careful. For me, it's not something. The fanciest opening with this thing would be to place it in the pocket, set up for right hand. If you open it traditionally, you pull it towards the front of the pants pocket, and it opens, and you grab it. Hopefully you can see all of that in the frame. Some quick measurements, which we like to do. You're not going to get the full idea of the length of it, because you can see we're spanning that direct distance between the point and the pommel, but it is 7 inches. And if we shift over here, we got a blade of about 2 3/4 inches. We've got a cutting edge of 2.5 inches. Kind of tough to get those dimensions on a Karambit knife with such a extreme curve to it. Here we have inches, so let's get the aluminum handle, 0.47, quite thin. Let's get the blade stock, 0.11, or 2.9 millimeters. So fairly thin blade stock, but if you look at the tip, it isn't exactly what you'd call frail, but it is extremely pointy. And this thing comes through extremely sharp. I'll see if I can do some paper gyrations before we're all done. And let's get the weight. It is a very lightweight knife with the aluminum handle. Don't need to be bothered with any scales when the handle is a solid metal material, because that's your support. 3.3 ounces, we'll call that. We're not even going to get into ounce per inch things. 3.3 ounces. Really, really nice. This carries pretty well in the pocket. The ring sticking up above the pocket, I find, doesn't really muster much attention from people. Let's compare this really nice Karambit knife to a few others in the collection. Here is the 511 Tirani designed Journeyman. And you can really see the extreme curve on that one. He designed this to be a Indonesian style knife, with the idea being that that point, they direct it into the eyes with jabs, not just for ripping. So it's also for puncturing. I'm going to back out a little more, see how many I can get in the frame here. And we have something similar to the Journeyman. And this is the Browse Enforcer. Very interesting knife along the lines of the Journeyman in terms of the extreme curve. And this one has a pocket opening feature which uses this comb. It's like a rooster's comb. Looks a little bit like a bird with a comb. And the idea with this one is that when it's a liner lock, obviously a back lock on the Journeyman, but the wave opening feature here is that this will grab the material of your pocket and open up. And believe me, it works quite well. The clip is not switchable on this one. This is the budget model, going for about 40 or 50 bucks. I think they're still out there, also with a black blade. Browse, B-R-O-U-S. It is a resin handle, FRN. Very comfortable in the hand. And it would look like this plate removes and you can put the clip on this side, but this clip doesn't work on this side. On the higher end ones, they gave you two clips. So I don't know if you can get a clip for the lefties for this one. You can look into that if it's something that interests you. Again, really interesting, nice. And you almost can't reach over and grab that flipper. You almost have to use the thumb. So that's why I pocket opened that guy. Another is the Carahawk, an older model from Spyderco. You can see not nearly as much curve to that blade. A backlock with a little safety detent here. It's got the wave opening feature built in, and they do give credit to Mr. Emerson. Emerson patent, and there's your patent number for the wave opening feature, because they carve it right into the blade. It also has the hole to open it, and is got a split ring going on here that then becomes, it's got a spacer here. And I have the, I forget the aftermarket name of the clip, but Lynch, I believe it is, clip on that one. Finally, very recently released is the Boker Hell, H-E-L, Karambit, designed by Alessandra De Santis, also with a wave opening feature and a liner lock and a back flipper. And this one does not have nearly as much curve as these three in the middle. Well, you may recall that old TV show, Columbo. He was the detective that was famous for saying, well, just one more thing. And I forgot one more thing, because I did tell you guys that we would test the sharpness. Oh. It will cut. Right, Doug? There you go. Enjoy. So take another look around with this really neat new Karambit. Again, button lock, probably one of the first. Is the Hell Karambit a button lock? No. So one of the very first, if not the first, button lock Karambit. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. I like the gray finish. If you don't, there is the blue, and there are several others. There's the black with a black blade. For me, it holds really well. I think it's a versatile knife as Karambits go. We'll give you one last set of comparisons here. Here is the Griptilian by Benchmade. Here is the Rat 1 by Ontario. So this is not a tiny knife by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination. These are going to look bigger because they're stretched out straight and they're not curved. But there you go. No real comparison with standard knives and Karambits, I feel. They are a specialty item. You may be turned off by this. You may love it. You may be interested just because it's different. At any rate, don't forget to give this a like if you would, and subscribe. I'll be back soon.